Hello, this is Dr. Teresa DeWillow with a presentation on the Undecided Major, considerations in the choice of a major. Many undergraduates struggle with the process to decide how to pick a major. So some people are going to choose their courses, some will choose their major first, some may choose a career path. In a perfect world, these are going to be connected, and that's part of what I want to talk about here. In my presentations, what I try to focus on is what does not make it into print, what is not common knowledge, or how to recognize that you need more information. And basically, any university is going to have a career center and probably multiple ones at different colleges that are also going to provide you information, and you should definitely take advantage of those resources. But one of the things that's going to be true is that you can't make a decision in a vacuum. You will go through life making many decisions on partial or incomplete data. And that's because that's the best that's available at that point in time. So the best you can do at any point in time is to research issues by best strategies available and then change course when it's indicated. So the issue isn't that you know what you want to do when you're 5 years old and you pursue it in a linear fashion, but that as data becomes available, you can modify your course. When you've done this and done it well, you don't end up kicking yourself later because you failed to do good research. You made a decision on the best information available at any point in time. So, having been an undergraduate advisor for many years, I see several different scenarios. Some students pick their courses, and then from a course they select a major which takes them to a career. So oftentimes I see students who maybe took a one-credit seminar, let's say in microbiology as a freshman. Somebody advised them, well, take a couple courses and see what you like. They like that microbiology course, so now they're a microbiology major. Other people may say, well, I know I want to be a microbiologist, therefore what courses should I take? Other people may say, this is my career, there may be a major or a variety of majors that I might pursue, and therefore I will pick my courses. Now all of these have virtues and drawbacks, and again, in a perfect world, they're all connected. But whether you pick your courses and then your major, or your major and your courses, hopefully this is a path. This is a path that's leading you to whatever your career is at some point down the stream here. So you want to think about them together and not as separate categories. Here we have a list of major myths. This is taken from the Exploration Center for Majors and Careers at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. The first is you are your major. You're equated with your major. Myth 2 is that a major only leads to very specific jobs. Myth 3, most students know what they want to major in when they start college. Myth 4, certain majors mean big bucks. And myth 5, the more majors, the better. So looking at the first one here, what we have is you are your major. No, your major is what you do. It is your plan. It is not who you are. I oftentimes have had people say, well, I know who you are. No, you know what I do, which is different. Just as a comment to all of you pre-health majors and that too, pre-med is not a major. It's an intent, it's a plan, but it's not a major, at least not at the University of Wisconsin. We do not have that type of category. The second myth is that majors equal specific jobs. There's a lot of misconceptions that are based on incomplete research and misunderstandings. So somebody may say, you should be a biochemistry major if you want to work in the pharmaceutical industry. This isn't necessarily true. There's many different majors that could lead you to job opportunities in the pharmaceutical industry. Everything from environmental toxicology to pharmacology, on and on and on. Another one, a medical school views a biology major as mundane. I have had students tell me, well, I want to go to medical school, but I don't want to do a biology major because it's not interesting or it's not, heaven forbid, sexy. And medical schools don't look at it this way at all, I can tell you, having been on an admissions committee. So it's what you do with that biology major and what you do to make yourself a unique applicant. The third one here is most students know what they want to major in when they start college. Well, some of us may have decided that this is what we wanted to do at the age of 5. And I always kind of chuckle when somebody says, I've known I wanted to do this because since I was 5 years old, because how much information did you have at the age of 5? So one of the things you don't want to do here is avoid confusing certainty with maturity. Some people may think that having made a decision and sticking through to it is a sign of determination and maturity, but actually maybe that decision was made on partial information. So you can be very certain about something, but if you lack flexibility, you're not going to change your mind as more information, more likes and dislikes, whatever, become available. So, and this is something you can share with mom and dad too. Many students change majors, some of them more than once. And this is not a sign of weakness. This is a sign of maturity that you're planning your career. Number 4 is that certain majors are equated with big bucks. And that may be true if you were a business major and you became the CEO of Google, but that isn't, the major doesn't define the income per se, especially for you, the millennial generation, where you have great opportunities to create the job that you want. Everything is so interdisciplinary that you can put together different types of skills and education in new ways to create really interesting jobs. I always tell my advisees, if you can think it up, you can do it. The 5th myth is that the more majors, the better. And I see this a lot, especially among many of my advisees who are going into the health professions. Well, they think if one major is good, 2 is even better. It is always, always, always going to be more important to do really well in one than to be average in 2. A lot of misconceptions. There's a very big difference between the students who say, well, the medical school doesn't care what you major in, which is true, and that what you major in does not matter. So I see students who do not have their path thought out. So they have a set of courses and they're defined a particular major, but it doesn't necessarily connect to a career plan. So for instance, somebody says they do a particular major and it doesn't matter how passionate they are about that because I'm going to medical school. Well, in the next slide here, what I'm going to say is I recommend that everybody absolutely have a plan A and a plan B. The plan A is the best of all worlds if everything goes exactly like you would hope. Plan B is what I could also be fulfilled pursuing as a career. And I once found this coffee cup in an airport and loved it. Life is all about how you handle plan B. And I have tried to get students to think in terms of a plan A and a plan B. So sometimes I would hand out some information, maybe to collect their names and their majors for communication. And I'd say, what are your career plans? What is your first and your second? And the first one said heart surgeon, and the second said brain surgeon. And that's not what I'm getting at. Those are basically the same career. So I ask students, okay, so you are doing a microbiology undergrad. If you were not to go to medical school or you did not go right away, would you be a microbiologist? Oh no. Students who are nutrition majors, and I say, so if you didn't go to medical school, would you be a nutritionist? Oh no. Be wiser than this. think about your coursework relating to your major, but think about how your major can impact your career, even a microbiologist becoming a physician. Think across your career and not in separate entities. So going back to this, an admissions committee may not have a favorite major, but it never means that your major is irrelevant. So if your major is biology, and you can never have too much biology in my estimation, so there may be what you need to know for admission, but there's also what you need to know to graduate and what you need to know to practice. So again, it's not segmentation here in terms of what you need to know. Also, students oftentimes miss the point when they think that once they take the required minimum coursework, they're ready to apply or move forward. The minimum coursework may be what an admissions committee requires, but it does not mean that's enough in terms of making you competitive with your peers or having sufficient knowledge of biology to be admitted. I have seen students who came in with advanced placement. They had taken college courses maybe in high school and thought that they wanted to apply to medical school at the end of their sophomore year because they had taken the minimum. No way are you ready at that point. Let me point out also that when you go forward with your career, when you're in undergrad, you know that we have introductory courses, intermediate courses, and advanced courses. And at the University of Wisconsin, introductory are 100 and 200 level, intermediate are 300 and 400, and advanced are 500 and 600. And looking at the top there, you can see that graduate school and professional schools start with the 700 numbers. So you actually want to have a plan in your coursework here. You take the introductory. We expect that you're then going to take more difficult courses and hopefully advanced courses as well. If you have only taken 100, 200, and 300 level courses, then how can an admissions committee know that you're in a position to jump to 700? So you want to take a progression of courses here that shows that you can take the more difficult, the advanced courses as well. One of the things in the course selection is also the timing. You want to plan the intermediate and the advanced and when to take them. There are courses that you would need before you applied to graduate school or a health profession, and there's ones that you can afford to take afterwards. There are ones that you need for the admissions exam. There are ones that you can take afterwards. So definitely big issues here. Planning your electives. You don't have to major in something to have an interest. So whenever an admissions committee looks at your transcripts, they're going to look at your electives, and you may not have majored or may not have a certificate, but we see that you have taken a quote-unquote emphasis in a particular area. So maybe you've taken a lot of electives into social science, and when you write your application essay, you say, given my interest in sociology, I've really concentrated here, etc. Planning to conduct independent research, or what we call it here is directed studies. On my undergradadvising.com site, I have an entire video and a handout on how to identify opportunities to conduct research. And by all means, contact me if you need help with that. So the big thing is also to connect your coursework to your plan B. If you plan well, you can plan in parallel. There is no last distraction, no lost time. You're not off the path at all. So reiterating, so what have you been told about selecting courses and or a major? Well, oftentimes freshmen are asked, well, what interests you? Which is a pretty general question. So you may have a student who took a one seminar credit course or a few as a freshman, and they had exposure to a couple of topics, and they, for example, really liked the microbiology course. So now they're a microbiologist. so they're planning their coursework according to a microbiology major. But in fact, you don't have to make all of these decisions your freshman year. What you do need to do is plan well enough that the courses that you are taking can take you in a variety of directions. Your job as a freshman is to acclimate, to get your feet on the ground, and to get your grade point where you want it, and then be able to maintain it across or increase it across your graduate career instead of a lot of angst and a lot of worrying. So what also affects what type of career you might want? Well, there's going to be multiple factors. The most obvious is income and prestige. Income, what type of standard of living do you want? What kind of income do you need to maintain that standard of living? For some, it may be prestige. If that's important to you, then you may plan that accordingly. There is lifestyle. Do you want a 9-to-5 job? Do you want to be on call? Are you willing to do a 24/7 type of on-call? Work style. Do you work alone? Do you work in a group? Do you really like teamwork? What type of family accommodations are there in the workplace? Do they have a parental leave policy such that if you elect to become a parent, you can take a leave of absence or just some time off, etc.? Once your children are here, what are the flexibility issues? Do you have a position? Do you have a boss where you can leave if you need to pick up children early or go to after-school programs? These are all just variables that are going to be different from one person to another. Certainly, there's big responsibility issues. How much responsibility do you want? Can you leave it at the office or at the hospital or at the lab at 5 o'clock, or do you take it home with you? There are maybe liability issues. If you're a physician and have need malpractice insurance, is it provided by the workplace, or is that something that you need to cover yourself? Certainly job benefits, always insurance, life insurance, health insurance, and what type of vacation schedule they have. And a lot of this comes down to very much to your personality traits, whether you want to lead, whether you follow, as I say, whether you like to work solo or you like to work as a team. It's interesting, you can go all over the internet and find all kinds of websites on characteristics needed by those who succeed, etc. There was one here, I thought this was pretty interesting. So they list flexibility, optimism, motivation, persistence, and a strong work ethic. Well, any direction is going to require motivation, persistence, and a strong work ethic to really excel. Other factors may be self-advocacy, the ability to represent yourself well, to put yourself first, take care of yourself, whether you're an organized person, the type of connections that you have. This is not social media, Facebook. It can be, but that's not exactly it. Do you network? Do you work with many other people to make the job go well? Consistency in your efforts and support. This could be the support you provide as well as the support that you need. Another thing that I really want to emphasize is the ability to speak well and to write well. This is a quote by Norman Cousins, who's a famous journalist and peace advocate. And he says, it makes little difference how many university courses or degree a person may own. If he cannot use words to move an idea from one point to another, his education is complete. So I highly recommend that all of you, number one, take a speech class, take public speaking, and be able to enunciate your ideas clearly and concisely and convey your point. The other thing I've noticed a great deal is that students are not aware of all the different types of writing that they need, just not across the curriculum, but across their career. So the one that's most common is the narrative, the story, and this is what you learned in middle school and probably used in high school as well. A story had a theme. The theme weaves throughout. A story has a beginning and a middle and an end. And unfortunately, a lot of students aren't aware or well familiarized with the other types of writing that may be needed. Descriptive, simply to show or describe something. Persuasive, to argue for or against something. Rhetorical, are you going to write research grants and have to convince someone of your position? Expository, to explain or inform. And of course, creative, incredibly rich fiction, poetry, filmmaking, on and on and on. As I mentor students all across the United States, I see a large number of them are pretty much stuck on the narrative writing. And what happens is there will be different types of writing. The type of writing that got you from high school to college is not the kind of writing that will get you into graduate or professional school or perhaps the job of your choice. So you need to learn these other types or know when they are required, which all requires that you know who your audience is and that you're speaking to that audience. I just want to throw in a disclaimer here at the end. There is no advice or mentoring that I offer here or anyone else where else that's in lieu of you seeing an advisor in any major, one that you are in or hope to be in, think about being in. You need all the advice you can get from all sources. One of the things you really need to do is to create your network and then take it forward with you across your career. Several years ago, I had someone to come to me for pre-health advising, and they said, basically, will you be my advisor? And I said, certainly. And he said, well, if you're my advisor, what do I do with this guy? Thinking that you could only have one. You get help from wherever you can, all possible sources. Probably the strongest things that I can write in a letter of recommendation is that an individual takes advantage of all available resources, seeks them out, and implements them to move a project, to move whatever the cause is forward. And as I say, you take that network with you. Also, that you're a continual learner. You are always going to see yourself on your own learning curve and always wanting to be able to learn more. On that note, I will thank you for clicking on this video, and here's my email address if there's any way I can help.